Safety wire is probably one of the more frustrating things for new students to try to get a handle on, but really the process is pretty simple. What we have to think about first is what we're trying to accomplish with safety wire. Normally, if we're running safety wire through the head of a bolt, what we're trying to prevent is allowing these bolts to loosen up over time, which is going to cause them to become unconnected, unfastened, however you want to say it. They're going to fall out, which is what we're trying to avoid. So using safety wire, we can create a pull in a tightening direction that prevents it from trying to loosen up. That's why we call it safety wire. It's a backup measure to the fastener itself. Now, as a general rule of thumb, you won't find a lot in the AC 4313 about safety wire diameters to use unless you're talking about turnbuckles. However, as again, a general rule, use the thickest safety wire that you're going to be able to reasonably install into an area. You get too thin and it's not going to do the job that we need. So as I take a look at this installation, I want to safety these two bolts together. So my goal is to make sure that I connect them in such a way so that this bolt is going to be turned to the right, that way, and to make sure that this bolt is also going to be turned to the right. They're both pulling in a tightened direction if the other loosens. So if this one starts to loosen up, I want it to pull. Again, so if we point that way with this bolt, if it starts to loosen, then we want it to rotate this bolt in a tightening direction. If it rotates in a tightening direction, it's going to prevent this one from loosening up. So I'm going to show you a hand twist first. I've got some 32 safety wire, that's 032, and we'll start by threading through the first bolt. Now the way this works, I'm going to pull it through, and I'm actually going to leave a little bit longer of a leg on this side because I need to wrap around the bolt head. The way that this works, I'm going to hold this piece of safety wire secure, get a little more, and I'm going to give it a quick little bend like so, since that is the direction I want it to go. And that little bend is going to help to lock this in place as I bring this other leg around the other side. All right, now as I bring this, what I want to do is I want to think about this twist right here in such a way so that it's going to keep this from flapping up over the top of the head and allowing it to become loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it underneath this other piece of safety wire. Right, this one is coming straight out, this one is coming around the head, and it's underneath. And now what I'm going to do is twist in a direction that allows this to hold the safety wire that wrapped around the head underneath. I'll flip this around so you can get a look at it, but what we've done is we've come around the head, and we've gone underneath the safety wire that's coming out of that drilled hole. That'll help to hold it in place and keep it from trying to pop up on you. So now, as far as the hand twist goes, all I need to do is just start twisting my two safety wire strands together. Just like so. Now, key with safety wire is if you make a mistake, you're better off starting over. This is metal, and as a rule, when we bend metal, it work hardens over time. So if we make a mistake and we bent it the wrong way, meaning we tried to come around a corner and it didn't quite sit right, then we really need to start over. But what I want is to have these two twisted pairs come over to feed into the hole on this side of the head. Again, I want it to pull tight on this bolt, so we're going to come in through this hole and wrap around the head over there. And I'm just going to keep twisting by hand. You can get pretty good results hand twisting. One of the things to be careful is don't go too fast, otherwise you run yourself the risk of stabbing yourself with safety wire, which in all reality is probably going to happen to you at some point in time, but we'd prefer to keep it from happening at this stage. It does hurt quite a bit. Just keep twisting. Remember our rule, in general, we want to see 6 to 8 twists per inch to make sure the safety wire has been twisted sufficiently. Now, as I get more twists in place, I want to start to check my distance against this hole. And you can see what I've done is I've gone too far. Now, if this is what happens to you, you've gone too far, what you really need to do is clip this whole assembly off and get rid of it. The reason I demonstrate that way is because this happens a lot. People try to untangle it a little bit and make it work. You've already twisted it. It's not going to work the way you want. You just need to start over. For the sake of demonstration, I'm going to show you how we would finish this without, of course, untwisting it. So to shorten this up, I'm going to untwist this a little bit and pretend that never happened. All right, I want to make sure that I'm at about the right. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So the length between these two, I want this to just line up with the hole in the head of the bolt. So I'm going to take this strand, the one that is going over, because I want to cross under with the side going under the head. I'm going to feed this through like so. Just like that. Again, as you pull this through, sometimes you can get yourself into a kind of a sharp angle. And you got to be careful, because if you pull too hard on a sharp angle, it's going to bunch the safety wire and cause it to break. So we get this pulled through. Sometimes just needs a little convincing. There we go. Make sure this side is set down nice and tight. So that's what I want to see. Now that I've pulled this through, I'm again going to make a bend right there so it holds it in place, and I'm going to bring this leg around. Now this is where having a pair of pliers can be helpful, so we can get some nice tension on this. I'm just going to grab out here past where I'm planning to do my twist and wrap it around the bolt head again, going underneath the safety wire that's coming out that hole. That's going to help keep this pinned in place. Once I've gotten this far, I'm going to twist in such a way that that stays underneath, so we're actually twisting the opposite direction, like so. We get a few twists in. Just like that. Now I've given myself a little extra space here, so what I can do is I can now take my cutters. I can cut the safety wire. It's important to make sure that you hang on to the loose end of the safety wire before you do this, otherwise it can fly away and become FOD, which we don't want. Snip just like so. Everything's hunky-dory. Now I can take this and make a pigtail, in which I bend this backwards. Just like so. And I tuck in the end so that it does not snag machinery or people. Just like that. If you do it like that every time, you'll be doing okay. We have a tight pull, so it's turning this bolt in a tightening direction. It's going to turn this bolt in a tightening direction. It's exactly the way we want to see it. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is a twist using our safety wire pliers. This time we're going to try to connect 3 bolts together. So we're going to start out largely the same way as we did before. So I'm going to start on one end, going to thread through, and the way that I wrap the safety wire is going to depend on which way I'm planning on twisting. Now again, I want a tight pull, so I want it to exit out here so we can come to this side of the bolt. So I'm going to wrap around like so. Going to come underneath just like that, and then to get myself started, I'm going to give myself a little twist like so, just to lock this in. So your hand wire and your hand twisting skills don't entirely go away once you start using pliers. Now, to get this kind of approximately figured out, I'm going to bend the safety wire around. I'm going to find where my hole is, and just slightly past that area, since we're going to shorten up with a twist, is where I'm going to clamp my pliers like so. The way that these clamp is we hold them tight, the little tongue goes into here, and we slide this back and it locks it in place. Easy as that. All right, so I need to take away a look at the way I'm twisting. I have a right hand twist, so I'm going to pull on this, and it twists it for me. I let go, and the spring returns. Now again, we're going for the same amount. We're looking for that 6 to 8 twists per inch. And something I like to show people is to help get these a little bit tighter against the head of the bolt. What will happen sometimes when you try to twist these is as you twist, it twists this area and it gets tight, but close to the bolt head, it doesn't get close enough to hold that in place. So what I recommend doing is you're going to take this safety wire plier, and we want to do 1 complete revolution as we move it in a circular motion. So watch very carefully. I'm going to try to slow this down. I'm going to go up like this. Notice I'm turning the safety wire as I go, just like that. And what you've noticed is it's helped to tighten it down towards the head of the bolt and lock it in. Now I can pull this over and go into our second bolt head. So just gauging right here, that looks pretty close to me. I'm pretty happy with how that set up. So I'm going to run through the hole in the head of the bolt here. Pull this tight and just give it a little tug like there. We're nice and locked in. To finish this twist, what we want to do is determine which way we need this bolt to turn. So we want to prevent it from loosening, right, which means we can come around this side and point it over to the other bolt. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come around this side like so, and again, do kind of a hand twist here to lock it in place before I get on with the safety wire pliers. Now what's happened here is because I've gone through this bolt, I'm changing direction, I'm actually going to have to just twist the pliers by hand rather than use that little springy deal on the end. Now if you have a pair of reversible pliers, you don't have to worry about that, but in this case, this is where we're at. So again, I'm going to gauge for about where that hole is on this side, and I'm going to clamp just past it with my safety wire pliers and get it attached on, just like so. All right, now I can begin my safety wiring process. Again, this is going to have to be a manual twist since these are not reversible, so I'm just going to start twisting like I would with any other plier. The key is to keep some tension on this so that it doesn't twist weird on you. Keep twisting, and then just kind of a finishing twist like I showed you before. We're going to go up and around and combine that with a single rotation to help lock that in nice and tight right here. All right, now I can see where I've wound up. I think I'm a little bit short, and as a matter of fact, I am. So we're going to add just a couple more twists like so. There, that's a little bit better. So now, again, making sure this gets pinched tight. Going to come through with this side so that it goes over our piece of safety wire that wraps around. Pull this through. You can use the pliers to pull this tight like so. Keep in mind to keep this from twisting as you pull, otherwise we'll wind up with the wrong result. All right, there we go. So we're pulled in tight. Now it's time to finish this twist. I'm going to come around the bolt head again. You can see that we've come underneath. Again, I'm going to go underneath with this side. Do my first twist by hand. And now we're going to make the pigtail. So we've got our initial twist done. Going to latch on with the safety wire pliers here. We're twisting in a clockwise direction so I can use the pull handle, just like so. It looks pretty close, and then we'll give it one more twist to terminate down at the end, and I'm pretty happy with that. So most safety wire pliers are going to have a cutter built in, so we bring that cutter, remember to hold your slack just like that. Everybody's happy. You can twist this in to avoid snags. Just like so. And give it a little pinch closed. And there we have it. 3 bolts safety wired together. All right, last safety wire for regular bolt heads I'm going to show you here is a single wire method. Now hopefully I have enough here, and I'm using some thicker wire so you can see how this works if we're using something thicker. Of course, the first thing we need to do is pick where we're going to start, so I'll choose this bolt head and slide the safety wire through just like so. Again, it's going to be a little bit more challenging with the thicker 40 thousandths safety wire. So what I need to determine now is which direction I need these legs to go to keep this from turning in a loosening direction. So if I think about this, I don't want it to turn that way, which means I need to send this leg this way so it's pulling tight, and we're going to go through this bolt over here. I'm just going to start from one end and work my way through. I'm going to go to right where this is at a tightening angle as well. Now, in all reality, if you have a installation that you're putting together, you're going to be better off trying to line up these bolts. As you can see, this one's starting to twist on me a little bit already. Line up these bolts so you can run a single line through without a lot of fuss. But given the situation as it is, we'll work with what we have. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. We're going to go into an area where it's going to pull it tight, just like so. Until this one's a little bit loose. If you find any loose bolts while you're safety wiring, you really want to tighten them up, because the whole point is that they should be tight. Get this pulled through, just like so. There we go. That's through nice and tight. We're going to go through, probably the last one will be able to fit on this side, which again, we're going to come right through here. The key is trying to find a way that will keep these pulling tight. And again, if they're lined up where you really can't find a bias to pull with, that's fine. A single wrap method like this, or a single strand method like this, really isn't quite as dependent on having the tight pulls. All right, ran out of room there. We're going to come around this side, just like so. Come in a tight pull direction through to the head of the bolt. There we have it. Now we come to this critical junction. Now, a lot of people end up having trouble right here because they try to put these two ends together and twist, and the way the geometry works just isn't very effective. So what I do is I grab my pliers, I pull one direction, I pull the other direction, I get it as flat as possible, and then I make a twist just like that to give us a start. All right, probably one more will keep us locked in a little bit better. I like that. I can latch on with my pliers, like so. And I'm not gonna pull to twist because I don't want to pull this further away from the surface. So I'm just gonna twist by hand, like so. I'm gonna give it one more turn and twist like so. That seems reasonable. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the pigtail down to size, if I can. Ugh. That 40 is a little bit tougher. Let's go for some better cutters. There we go. That's more like it. Get the FOD out of the way, and then we'll twist ourselves a little pigtail. Just like so. Again, the key is to make sure that pigtail is pointed away so we don't have any snags. Just a quick note on cutting safety wire in a way that makes it a little bit easier to deal with. If I loosen my pigtail here a little bit, what it does is exposes the piece of safety wire that's going through the bolt head. So if I snip that piece right there, what I can do is pull this whole thing away just like that. I come to my next one, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to reverse the direction on this with my cutters, just like so, until I expose the piece of wire that's going through the head. Give it a snip. Of course, be careful not to catch yourself in the eye. Pull that out, and now I can snip this end, like so, and I've got all of this safety wire out as one piece. No FOD to worry about. All right, let's talk about safetying turnbarrels, or turnbuckles, depending on who you talk to. Now, the way that this works, the turnbuckle here is threaded on both ends, and these terminal ends from the cables are threaded in. So as we rotate this turnbuckle either direction, it's going to pull these terminals in or out, which is going to change the tension on our cable system here. For obvious reasons, we don't want to have this change the tension in mid-flight, so we have to make sure that this turn barrel can't move. So what I'm going to show you is how I can do one of the more challenging things to figure out with safety wire, but really isn't that hard once you get into it, which is turnbuckle safetying. So we're going to do a single wrap turn barrel safety. You use your AC 4313 to determine the diameter of safety wire you want to use for the size of cable that you're using. It is specified. But once we have that figured out, we're going to start in the middle. We have this hole that runs right through the center of the turnbuckle. I'm going to pull my safety wire evenly through, about like so. Now, the hole is still going through there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bend one end of the wire going one direction and the other end of the wire going the other direction. All right? Pretty straightforward. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this end through the hole on this terminal end, just like so. Some pliers will be useful. You'll see that in a minute. And then the other side, I'm going to run through the hole in this end, just like that. All right, now's a good time for me to grab my pliers. I like to use just a regular pair of duckbill pliers for this. So I'm going to give myself a little pull to snug this up. The tighter I can get this, the better off I'm going to be. All right, I'm going to pull through just like so. All right, now starting on this end, what I want to do is take this piece and wrap it up and around the safety wire on this end. And this is where those pliers can come in handy, so you can make sure that you get a tight enough squeeze on the wire as you pull it around. All right? Come up, around the other side. That is one turn. Now on each side we need to see at least 5 turns. So that's one turn. I'm going to come around the rest of the way. That is my second turn. Rest of the way. That is my third turn. My fourth turn, and then my 5th turn. Once I finish my turns on that side, I'm going to take my cutters and just give it a little snip like that. Straight into the trash the excess goes, and now I can use my pliers gently to get this end pulled up just a little bit so that it's not a snagging hazard, just like that. So that is one end finished. So now I'm going to go to the other side. Again, same process. Make sure I'm nice and tight against the body of the turn barrel here. I can use my thumb to kind of iron that out a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. Let's go the other direction this time. So I'm going to come around from the front. Right, I want to get it up against this little flat here, since it gives me somewhere to go with the safety wire. So we come up and around like so. All right, make sure we are looking at the same direction here. That is one pass. We have 2 passes, 3 passes, 4 passes, and 5 passes or wraps. All right, now again, I'm going to take my cutter, give it a little snip, like so, and now I can tuck this cut end a little bit closer to the rest of these. All right, now what we want to see with these to know they're done successfully, it should run close to the body. These wraps should be nice and tight and stacked up against each other. If they're spaced widely down the end of this terminal, it's not going to do the job. It's not going to hold it in place. But just like this, we have the minimum required amount of wraps. We've used the correct diameter of safety wire according to our cable diameter, and we have a nice, secure installation that is not going to come loose in flight. All right, let's talk for a minute about cotter pins. Cotter pins are what we use to safety castellated nuts. Now, a couple notes. We have a number of incorrect installations here. Now, the first of which being, you see right here, the head of the cotter pin is not settled down into the castellations. That's not what we want to see. The way that we would fix this, now you can go sideways like this, but ideally, if it is done sideways, the cotter pin head should come all the way down, and these legs should wrap inside the castellations to avoid snagging. That's kind of a hard way to do things. So if we were to remediate this or fix it, what we'd want to do is rotate it first of all so that it is 90 degrees to the bolt, and then we're going to push this all the way in. All right, sometimes we need to lever a little bit, which is fine. Push all the way in like so until the head of the cotter key is within the castellations. Then to fix this, the top leg should come all the way up over the top like so. Just like that. You can use the cotter pin head as some leverage there. And then the bottom half, we need to trim a little bit shorter. All right, make sure you catch the FOD, and then it bends down just like so. Sometimes it takes a little extra muscle to get these. Just like that. So when the installation is finished, we should wrap up around over the top of the bolt and down past the castellation, and the head of the cotter pin should be secure within the castellations of the castle nut.